This video is primarily for personnel in my current military assignment. I encourage others, however, to consider the specific subjects on the following timeline.
Hi, I'm Chaplain Jeff Dillard, and you may be asking yourself the question right now, why a video on moral leadership development? Well, let's break that down into a few questions. First, why leadership development at all? Most of you watching this video are not in leadership positions, right? I'm not so sure that's the case. I like the way the military defines leadership: influencing others to achieve appropriate goals by providing motivation, purpose, and direction. That sounds like any good parent to me, any good grandparent, or a faithful friend when others come to you for advice, any good neighbor or sibling where others look up to you. Certainly sounds like any good supervisor, doesn't it? So you either are now or will be in a position of leadership. So this video is here to help you lead well now or later. The second question might be, why moral leadership development? Army Regulation 165-1 names moral leadership development as a specific commander's program for your benefit and your team's. So it's a way that the command helps you to grow and sets you up for success. Well, what's the moral part of it? Well, I'm not here to target immoral leadership. I'm here to equip everybody to succeed by targeting 3 moral areas that inspire all of us. Specifically, core values, what it is that we love or deem as good so strongly that it defines us. Core beliefs, what is it that we deem true so strongly that it too defines us. And lastly, key relationships. Who are those people that have such a strong influence in our life that they shape us? If you'll take a look at these slides, I think you'll begin to understand that we are, each one of us, an organization, meaning we're made up of pieces and affect each other. An organization of values, first of all, things that we love, things that we deem as good in our life. We have relationships that seem to hold our world, people that we trust, people that we may not trust, but they still have power in our lives. People who might not even be in our lives now, but because they were for years, they still have an influence on us. Or somebody you'll meet with in an hour or next week, that their influence is so strong over you, they're impacting you now even though you haven't met with them yet. We're an organization of core beliefs. We often wonder, is this situation I'm in, this person who's holding my world and this thing that I value, or these many things that I value, is this situation a threat? Is it a benefit to me? Have I lost something, or am I going to lose something? Is it a risk of injustice? And so all of those beliefs will lead to emotions. And an emotion is a physical cue in us toward relational action. I feel bad, mad, sad, or glad based on what I'm valuing in the moment, who seems to be holding my world, and what I believe about that situation. Now, you may have noticed that the emotions are pointed with exclamation points. That's because emotions are what they are. They're not good or bad. They just are. But the beliefs and the actions are all punctuated with question marks. The beliefs may or may not be true. In fact, the things that we value may or may not be good or appropriate for that situation. And the action that our emotions cue us to take may or may not be appropriate, which is why it's so important that we become more self-aware, that we ask ourselves, what are we valuing in this moment? What are we believing? What are the relationships that we are finding ourselves in? What's available to us in the future what just influenced us in our past so we can make appropriate decisions. You'll see as well that we are organizations of groups, and these are far more complex. All the more reason for us to grow in awareness and management of ourselves and others. This is essential. Otherwise, we will struggle to lead and lead well because of major blind spots to the core values and beliefs that motivate us and others. Here's a diagram of emotional intelligence. Now, emotional intelligence is not a model of outward behavior or model for our behavior. It's a lens of inner realities, or a lens to inner realities. And you can see in these 4 quads of this quad chart that it's about ourselves and others, and it's about awareness of ourselves and others, and management or leadership of ourselves and others. And if you're familiar with the Johari window, you know that there are increasing levels of awareness. And the deeper we are able to be aware of what we value and believe, the more we can decide if those are appropriate in the moment or if they're not appropriate. The more we can learn to read others, the better we can decide how to work with them in ways that are positively motivating to them on the team. The second reason to use the concept of emotional intelligence, which again is just awareness of ourselves and others for better management of ourselves and others, is that it helps us to see what is invisible, and it helps us to know how to appropriately motivate people by what inspires them. And what inspires people is what they believe is true, positive things, and what they value is good. And we value different things, and we believe different things. But unless we learn to see through to who we really are and to who others are, we won't know how to motivate them. The third reason to use emotional intelligence is simply that it gets results. There is a broad and long range of research in different fields to show a positive correlation between greater levels of emotional intelligence, and emotional intelligence can be learned. Unlike your IQ, your intelligence quotient, your EQ, or your emotional quotient can be grown. Take a look at these 7 different case studies on the positive correlation between leaders with greater levels of emotional intelligence because they either had them or they grew in them, and productivity on their teams. I'll let you pause the video to read the details if you'd like, but here's one on the United Arab Emirates and leadership. So a foreign culture and 418 different leaders. An obstetrics ward in an Italian hospital. Again, a positive correlation from left to right, bottom to top, between higher levels of emotional intelligence and job performance. Here's Amadori, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. They are a supplier of McDonald's in Europe, and a positive correlation again between emotional intelligence and organizational performance. IBM, same thing. Vernal Management LLC, same thing. Again, you can pause these to read the details if you'd like. I know we have those out there who are very interested in analysis, as you should be. I'll leave this one to your reading. I couldn't find a bar graph, but it's a very detailed and extensive scholarly work looking at 2 different groups, the Israeli Defense Force and the U.S. Air Force, again showing a positive correlation between emotional intelligence levels of their leaders and work productivity or positive outcomes in their groups. In summary about emotional intelligence, one of the benefits is its genius. It helps you to see the invisible. None of us can really see beliefs or values, or can we? We can see emotions, right? Emotional intelligence, you can see if somebody is feeling bad, mad, sad, or glad. And those are reflections of what they perceive about their beliefs or their values. If something is being lost, threatened, gained, something is at risk with them. So it helps you to see the invisible, what truly inspires them. Another strength of using emotional intelligence, or that concept, is that it helps us to respect, or to look again, to look more deeply at our TNT, our treasures and our trusts, so that we can decide based on our awareness what we might need to change. Awareness of our triggers. When we know ourselves more deeply, we can decide ahead of time, is this a situation where I'm going to be triggered into fear or anger or depression or numbing out or freezing up or attacking, so that we can prepare beforehand and not go into that in a reactive way. We can be more greatly aware of our cycles and our history. Why have we been acting the way we have over the last years in our family? Why has the last 10 years in our job been this way? And we can also understand, have a greater awareness of our strengths, because the things that inspire us, our beliefs and our values, is where we're going to pour our energy and our time and our money. And any time that you invest in something, you get stronger at it, you get better at it, you become more experienced at it. So it helps us to understand ourselves and others in the same way. And by understanding ourselves better, we grow also in empathy, understanding what makes other people tick. And the third part of that is then we can manage our teams well. We can lead better as a parent, as a spouse, as a supervisor, as a friend. That awareness translates to empathy. That empathy translates to better management or better leadership. Thirdly, a third benefit in summary, as I've already inferred several times, it leads to greater productivity on teams. When people know each other better and they know how to help each other based on what inspires us, it's a better work environment. We know what motivates us and we can capitalize on those things. So where do we go from here? How do we use the lens of emotional intelligence, which is simply greater awareness of self and others, in order to lead ourselves or manage ourselves and others more effectively? One of the ways forward is I'm going to be providing to you weekly resilience videos on 3 separate YouTube channels, so you'll only receive whatever you choose to subscribe to. One is Christian resilience training, and that is based on core relationships between us and God and us and each other, and it is explicitly Christian. Spiritual resilience deals with our values, and it's a non-religious training series. What is it that we deem as good individually or in our teams, and how does that impact the way we're functioning together, and how can we adjust some things? Not telling you what you should value, but helping us understand what we do value and choosing what is appropriate according to the group and the mission and the situation. And thirdly, master resilience, dealing with core beliefs. Again, not what we should believe, but what do we believe, and are those beliefs true? Are they helpful to the situation and the team and the mission? All these will be coming to you weekly. Only on the channel that you subscribe to will you receive notification of future videos. A second way that can be helpful to you is in on-site resilience training. And I've developed 7 curricula of different packages I can bring to you, and they're not lectures, they're interactive. Now I realize that this is out on YouTube and the world may be watching, so I'm speaking to the unit that I'm assigned with, but other chaplains would certainly be welcome to piggyback on these ideas. I can email you these curricula if you'd like. One of the curricula is very simple. It's a discussion, how can chaplains be helpful to Department of the Army civilians? I wear the uniform in the unit I'm stationed in right now. Very few of us do. Most of you are D civilians, and most of you are not prior service, so you may not have ever had much contact with the chaplain. We can talk about what the chaplain can do for you based on your needs and your mission and your situation. A second curricula that I've developed is called Being Whole in a Laser-Focused World. Most of us, regardless of our work, our family, our life situation, we tend to be very focused on a particular task or a particular group of people, and the more we pour our time and our energy and our emotion and everything else into that, the less time and energy and emotion we pour into other things. So we get really good at our laser focus and not so good at the other things around us. This is a discussion on how to become more whole based on some very simple principles. A third class or discussion that I can bring to you, structured discussion, is how to work on a multi-generational team. whether that's a intergenerational family or a multi-generational workforce. We've got a lot of people here and in other places throughout the Army and corporate world that have millennials working with baby boomers. And there might be no Gen X guys in between. There might even be some of the greater generation, or the GI generation as they're sometimes called. How do we work with people who are very different from us, who have different values, different life experiences, different goals, different perceptions? It is very possible to make it a win-win situation, but that needs to be a discussion and a plan and not just a reactive reality. A fourth curricula or structured discussion would be building bonds over distance, digits, and decades. In this particular unit, again, we have people who have been here for decades because of their expertise. They're wonderful at what they do, and so they've been here for 30 years, 40 years. Some of them working with the same people 20 and 30 and 40 years. Sometimes that's a great situation, sometimes it's not so great. And we're spread out all over the world. We're separated by offices and cube farms and buildings, and so there's distance, and we often communicate by digits. So it can be very difficult to build bonds in those situations, but not impossible. We'll talk about some very simple principles that we can use and techniques to build those bonds positively, even over the distance, digits, and decades. A fifth curricula I call supervision and friends and discipline. Oh my. Sounds like a grade B movie, doesn't it? But it's the reality. Oftentimes, when we work in a work situation for a long time, we get promoted, we get into a supervisory position, and our friends might not, and now you are the leader over your friend. And there may be times when you need to reprimand that person, either to pull them aside privately and have a somewhat difficult conversation, maybe discipline that's more formal. That can be very difficult, but again, not impossible. And it doesn't have to be a negative situation. It can be a very positive thing. We can make that a structured discussion for you as well. A sixth program of instruction, again, very participatory, that I've developed, that's based on the principles of emotional intelligence, I call the power and change of self-awareness. And I've got a couple of different worksheets I can bring to you. One of them is on individual self-awareness, and you'll get a blank sheet of paper with some instructions, and we graph using heart symbols specific values that are important to us. And I'll use myself, and we'll discuss mine, so it's a very safe thing for you to do. But to understand values of thinking, values of experience or feeling, and on the legs, values of action, and we'll put those left to right. Some are more prominent in our life and are stronger. Some are weaker or even toxic, but for different reasons of our upbringing and our culture, we still hang on to them. And what to do with that situation to grow in ways that you believe and that we decide together are more appropriate. But this is based on your needs and your situation. Same thing for groups. I have one for groups, and this is a hands-on activity. It's very discussion-oriented, and you graph your group. What are the values that seem to center your group, that seem to oversee your group or undergird your group and connect your group? What are those values, and what would you like them to be in order to make the team function more effectively according to your mission and your situation? Very discussion-oriented. Again, we'll use one of my groups to discuss so that you don't have to talk openly about yours, but you can take the lessons learned and begin to apply them to your group, or we can have a follow-up class to talk more specifically about your team. Lastly, a structured discussion on how to read the Bible for yourself. This one is explicitly Christian, but you've heard the adage, give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. This is helping you to read the Bible for yourself, for your own personal benefit in your relationship with God and others. So those are some on-site classes that I can bring to you, some structured discussions, again, very participatory. That can be helpful to you if you're stationed near Aberdeen Proving Ground is a quarterly Christian Resilience Luncheon. Again, this is explicitly Christian, but to come out and hear a devotional, to hear a testimony of a believer, some special music, receive a free lunch, and those will be advertised to you, and you can come as you choose. And lastly, confidential counseling. Everything that you say to a chaplain, everything is 100% confidential, and we do that in order to provide you an absolutely safe place to talk about anything with no repercussions whatsoever. If you want me to take it beyond counseling, I will need your written permission to tell me exactly who to talk to about exactly what, for exactly what purpose. It's very confidential, and you are completely in control of that information, where it goes, if it goes anywhere at all. If you want to get in touch with me, you can do it through the Army Enterprise Global email system, and I'll be glad to set you up with any of these programs of instruction there where you are, or you can subscribe to the videos. I hope to see you and serve you soon. God bless you.
At the release date of this video, I am stationed with Research Development and Engineering Command, RDECOM, at Aberdeen Proving Ground, Maryland. Because the majority of our personnel are in this area, I spend most of my time here. I do, however, travel to our distant units based on command priorities and budget. I place these videos on YouTube for broad visibility to Army personnel and their families, but I hope the videos will be helpful to others too. If you are assigned to RDECOM and want to request specific topics by video, training on site or by VTC, or confidential counseling on site or by secure webcam, you can contact me at jeffrey.d.dillard.mil@mail.mil.